I think we're going to go ahead and get started, everybody. First thing, I'm Sarah Velasquez. I'm the CommunicationsCore coordinator. And so we have this seminar. For those of you who might be new, we have this seminar every month during the school year. And we try to present things that are interesting to your careers and your studies, but not necessarily sciencey all the time. Today we're having our lovely PI, Doug Wright. It will be presenting to you about the program and what your expectations are. For you, those of you that are returning, a little refresher is always good. This will also be recorded and put on our website, so if there's somebody missing from your group, please encourage them to watch it. As soon as I get posted, I'll send out an email to the coordinators. And I think we're about to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and, do you want to say anything before I put your content up?
Will I lose the ability to see everyone once the content's up?
Yes.
Yes. So I just kind of give me a heads up into who's here. I see Mike on the big screen, so I know Fort Hays State is representing. But who else do we have? I see. Let's see. Do we have K-State on board? All right, K-State with a big group. And Sam, I see you. Is that Washburn? Hi. Okay, and then who's below you?
Wichita State.
Wichita State. Wave, Wichita State.
Hi, Isabel.
Oh, right there on the big screen. And how about Pitt State? Are they on?
We're here. Do you see us?
Virginia. Yeah, there you are.
Hi.
Sure. Oh, I like your hair.
Thank you.
Haven't seen you in a while. How about Emporia? Are they on? Who's on the big screen? Is Emporia State here?
He had a class today, and he's
Tinder. Okay, and then let's see who else. Wichita State was here.
We have Fort Hays.
Did we miss anybody?
We have Langston here too.
Langston. Oh, hey.
And then KU's here as well.
Hey, hi Rob. How are you?
We still love him.
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Okay, I'm ready. I think you'll. What I'd like to throw out as a disclaimer is that Sarah said this would be interesting, so I'm a little worried now.
And I'd like to remind everybody, if you can mute your microphones while he is speaking, just so we don't get extra noise. And then when we have questions, or if you have a question, unmute your microphone and go ahead and ask that question. Can everybody see that?
Can you see the screen? Can you see the content?
Yes.
Pitt State can see it.
Yes, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the K-INBRE program and who we are and why you're here and what we expect from you. As you can see, the title is Huh? And that's how I feel sometimes. This is a very big network which we have interacting, and sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out what all of the features of the K-INBRE are and what your role is in it. So I'm going to give you an overview today about that and tell you a little bit about the K-INBRE in general, how you can interact with us, and all the things that are going on. Now, Sarah, I may ask you to advance the slides, if you could, just because it'll be a little easier. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what is the K-INBRE, kind of the organizational structure. What's your role as a student and as a mentor in terms of what our expectations are. I'm going to talk about how you can be active in presenting your research and you can communicate with other researchers. What's some important information you should know, particularly from a grantsmanship standpoint. And then how are all the ways that you can interact with the K-INBRE through the use of social media and other mechanisms. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you.
Sorry, I was emailing
That's right.
with Dudrick about
Okay, so
connection.
why am I here? Who am I? I've been at KU Med for 17 years. I'm a professor and the vice chair of the Department of Anatomy and Cell Biology at the Medical Center. And the Anatomy Department does a lot of medical school teaching to the first and second year medical students, but I also do a lot of graduate teaching, particularly in the neurosciences. So with that, I'm a neuroscientist. My lab has been active and funded by NIH for most of my career, and we focus on the peripheral nervous system, which is responsible for bringing in sensation from the body, and also most of our studies are related to pain. So I'm a chronic pain neurobiologist. I took over as the director of the K-INBRE in 2011, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. So I haven't been on board too long, but long enough to know better at this point. And I also am the director of the Neuroscience Graduate Program at KU, which is a bi-campus program with KU Lawrence and KU Medical Center that oversees graduate training in the neurosciences. So a lot of the pictures that you'll see today are some of my students. I've trained a lot of students. In the lower right-hand panel, you can see one of my students. That's actually from 2003, which I look a lot younger and had a lot more hair. And that's a student who's now working in industry in California, and he's got great stock options in his job. I'm very jealous of him. Next slide. Okay, so what is the K-INBRE? Well, if we want to talk about the K-INBRE, we kind of have to back up a little bit and talk about the IDEA program. So the IDEA program is known as the Institutional Development Award Program. It's administered through one of the NIH institutes called the National Institute of General Medical Sciences, or NIGMS. There are many institutes at NIH that fund various and focused research, and we are part of the NIGMS Institute. Now, this program is unique because it was established by a congressional mandate in 1993. In 1993, they began to talk about how to get states that were not as competitive in NIH funding, how to make them more competitive. Much of the NIH money goes to both coasts, to the big institutions, and it was realized that many of the states in the middle of the country were not being competitive in terms of obtaining NIH funding. So Congress decided that they were going to set aside funds to begin to help support these states. Kansas is one of those states. We're actually in the lower half of NIH funding, so we are eligible for these awards from the IDEA program. There are 23 states that are eligible, and you can see the map at the bottom. The blue states are the states that are eligible for IDEA funding. The goal of the IDEA program is to increase the competitiveness of these states, and we do so by providing money to support research and infrastructure, and also to develop a pipeline for training researchers, and that's what most of the students here are associated with it. Now, the IDEA program has really two main parts. It technically has three now, but the two most notable components are the Centers for Biomedical Research, which are known as the COBREs, and the IDEA Network of Biomedical Research, which is abbreviated INBRE, and that's what we are. We are one of the INBRE programs. Each state only gets one INBRE program, and so the state of Kansas just has one program. The COBREs, there can be multiple COBREs for each state. In fact, Kansas has 6 COBREs, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So those are the two components of the IDEA program. Importantly, Congress has continued to support this, and they've grown the budget for this particular program to the tune of about $275 million this year. I just received notice that they've increased it a little bit. So Congress still feels like this is a very important investment, and they're continuing to support that. Next slide. Thank you. So this is not a small program. This program has brought in a lot of money to the state. It began in 2000, and in that time, we're around $190 million in NIH support to the state of Kansas. So that's no trivial amount of money to come into the state of Kansas. Our goal is to turn that money into more NIH support. Because we're funding infrastructure and support, we want to make sure that Kansas becomes more competitive. In doing so, we're up around $338 million in terms of external funding that Kansas researchers have been able to acquire. So that's the goal, right? NIH is investing in us, and we're trying to help researchers be more competitive so they can have a better chance of obtaining NIH funding. Now, this comes at a benefit to the state. As part of this, we funded a lot of research-related positions. We're over 1,000 positions that have been supported. And as I'll talk about in more length later on, we've funded 900 undergraduate students at this point, which is a lot of students in the last 14 years. Next slide. Okay, so a little bit about the COBREs. The COBREs, there are 6 current COBREs in Kansas, and these are housed at KU Lawrence, KU Med Center, and Kansas State. They support research, multidisciplinary research that strengthens their institutions. They also do a lot of support for young investigators. You may know some folks that are involved in the COBRE programs. There are 3 at the Med Center right now, and there are 3 at KU Lawrence. And these are very important in sort of helping support research at their institutions. These are generally have a very strong thematic focus, and they continue to be successful. There are 3 phases of these, and they're really designed to support young investigators and to support core facilities at the institutions. Next slide. The IDEA program, as I mentioned, has 2 parts. The other part is the INBRE program, and that's what we are. We're the only INBRE program for our state, and our goal is to strengthen the research expertise and the infrastructure. So infrastructure is stuff that helps researchers become more successful. It's equipment, it's facilities, it's core support. It's a lot of different things that your institutions may not have the resources for, but we can provide that and help those researchers become more successful. Another of our goals is to enhance the science and technology of the state's workforce, right? Our goal is to help Kansas train researchers so that they may be able to enter either professional school or directly into the workforce, and that's part of the goal of our program. We also want to promote the coordination and the sharing of research resources, and this seminar series is part of that. Throughout the course of the year, we want to be able to share information to all of our network institutions and help provide sharing of resources, and that's an important part. This is truly a network in which our goal is to spread the wealth and help everybody across the state be more successful. And then for most of the students, the last point is directly relevant to you. We're here to provide opportunities for undergraduates, introduce them into research and provide opportunities in research, and the goal is to develop a pipeline, and that pipeline is to develop a workforce, as I mentioned, that will either go right into jobs or go to graduate school or go to medical school or veterinary school or wherever you're headed, but our job is to kind of kickstart that for you so you have an opportunity to do research. Next slide. Okay, so our program, the Kansas INBRE, sometimes I call it the Kansas INBRE, sometimes I just call it the K-INBRE, or sometimes I just call it the KINBRE, was started in 2000 by a faculty member here at KU Medical Center by the name of Joan Hunt, and Joan stepped down in 2011. We were first known as the Kansas BRIN, and then NIH changed the name a couple of times, and now we're the Kansas INBRE program. I'm glad to report that we're beginning our 14th year. We've just been refunded with 5 years of support. So we are headed into years 14 through 19, which is a very, very long time in terms of NIH grant years. So we're very proud of that fact, and we hope to be successful in these next 5 years. Each of the INBRE grants at various states have a different theme, and our theme is focused on cell and developmental biology, and that allows us to sort of capture a lot of the research that's going on across the state of Kansas. So most of you are involved in some fashion in cell and developmental biology, and that allows us to capture a lot of the research that's going on in Kansas. Our network, our Kansas-INBRE program, has a network of 9 universities in Kansas and also 1 in Oklahoma, which we heard from Langston. I'll talk about the network, which is a very important part of that. In comparison to other states, Kansas has a relatively large network. We have a lot of very strong undergraduate institutions and research institutions in comparison to other states like the Dakotas or Wyoming, Montana. They don't have near the number of universities. They may only have 3 to 4 universities that they work with. So we have a relatively large network in our Kansas-INBRE program. Next slide. Okay, so here's the network, right? Here's how it's kind of set up. KU Medical Center is the lead institution, and we're one of the graduate partners. We have graduate programs at KU Medical Center. In addition to KU Med, we have 2 other graduate partners, which are KU Lawrence, as well as K-State University. And then if you'll hit the next slide. This is the other part, and really a key component to our network is we have 7 undergraduate partners, and that includes Emporia State, Fort Hays State, Haskell Indian Nations University, Langston in Oklahoma, Pittsburgh State, Wichita State, and Washburn. So all of these institutions are very vital components of our network. There are different tiers in terms of how things are structured, but overall, the 10 universities all play an important role in our particular network. And this has been a good exercise for me to figure out all of the logos and what's the term I'm looking for, the mascots of all the institutions. That took about a week to kind of figure out. And every time I see Fort Hays State, I think it's a Missouri Tiger, which kind of makes me worry. But as long as it's not Missouri, I think we're fine. So that's exactly what I say.
You have to remember,
as long as it's not Missouri.
Another institution in the room.
Mike, I wore my Fort Hays State University shirt out the other day, and people in Kansas nearly accosted me because they thought I was wearing a Missouri shirt. So I have to be careful where I wear it. All right, next slide. All right, so how do we support the state? There's a couple different ways we do that. For faculty, overall we have about 16 ways in which we distribute money throughout the state. And the first part of that is really more related to faculty. So we have a number of funding mechanisms that are in place to which faculty can compete for and hopefully attain grant dollars, research dollars to support their research. The first one is known as a bridging grant. Bridging grants are designed to help faculty who have submitted a grant to NIH, but they're really close and they didn't get paid, but they're very, very close, and if they went in with a renewal with more preliminary data or better data, they might have a better chance. And that's very, very important as we deal with NIH's very, very tight pay lines. It's very difficult to get an NIH grant. So if we can provide opportunities for researchers to continue to do their research, to get better research or to respond to reviewers' criticism, these bridging grants can really keep people afloat in between that time, and that's a very important program that we have. We also support pilot grants if we can. That's not our normal part of it, but we have supported a lot of pilot grants which are designed to help faculty with new ideas in their research. We do a lot of support for core facilities. If you've got a core facility at your institution, we might be buying new equipment, upgrading equipment, helping service that equipment. Those are things that oftentimes the institution can't provide, and we can help you in that regard. We have mentoring awards that go to your fine campus coordinators to help them in their research. We have recruitment packages that help recruit faculty to the institutions, and this is very important because at a smaller institution, maybe it's difficult to recruit someone to these smaller institutions that have a strong research background. So if we can help entice them to go to one of the undergraduate institutions, we're happy to do so. And I'll remind all of the campus coordinators that if you have recruitment going on and they're related to cell and developmental biology, please contact us so we can help you recruit those new faculty. A sort of relatively new award is called the Partnership Pair Award. This is designed to support pilot grants for basic science researchers that are pairing with a clinical faculty member to do translational and clinical research. As many of you know, translational and clinical research is really something that NIH is very interested in and wants to see more of. And so this is designed to help stimulate those conversations that allow a basic science person that's working on a basic science problem, let's say something about the molecular regulation of the cell, to talk to a clinician and to develop ideas to how to take those ideas more towards a clinical endpoint. And that's a really strong emphasis for NIH, and that's something that we all need to think about. And so these partnership pairs are designed to help stimulate that initial conversation so that you can begin to get cross-training with a clinician and a basic scientist to develop ideas towards a clinical outcome. Another important training aspect is that we support postdocs. So for the undergraduate students, if you go on and get your PhD, it's traditionally thought that if you're going to continue on, you'll do postdoctoral work, which can be from 3 to 5 years of extra research to help train you to become a PI in a laboratory or to go on and work in industry. And so postdocs are sort of that, similar to a residency for medical students. It's that sort of post-training that seasons you and makes you more competitive for jobs. So we support postdocs in our particular K-INBRE program. And then finally, we have developmental research grants. These are designed for young faculty, new faculty, to help them become more successful towards obtaining NIH funding. The postdocs and the developmental research grants have a strong mentoring component. We know that mentoring for young faculty and young scientists is really important. So these have strong mentoring components to that. So we have a lot of different ways which we can support faculty and postdocs, and we continue to do that every year. Now, because we've been around for 14 years, we've been able to support a lot of people in Kansas. About 450 awards have been awarded to researchers, which equates to about $13 million for those particular funding mechanisms. And we've been successful. So these faculty and postdocs have then gone on and have generated $90.5 million new dollars for the state of Kansas. And that's a return on our investment of about 1 to 7, which is very, very strong. And that's kind of the information that NIH wants to see from us. They want to know that we are getting a return on their investment. They want to know that we're being successful with this particular program. So we're very proud of the faculty that have been active in research and have done a really great job in obtaining funding, and we hope they continue to do that in the future. Okay, next slide. Now, here's really something that's a lot more relevant to the students. We have a number of programs that support undergraduate research, and those are listed there. The STAR Trainees programs are designed for senior upper-level students who have really shown expertise in research, and these are sort of a capstone program to help support really, really strong researchers. And some of you may be STAR trainees in the audience today. Most of you probably are semester or even summer scholars that have participated in research lab experiences either during the semester or even the summer. And we support about 60 of those in the summer. And that number of students continues to grow every year. New to for the next 5 years is we put in a couple of new little twists. One of our mandates is to really help the state develop a bioinformatics community. And in doing so, we want to give students opportunities to train in bioinformatics. So we have new bioinformatics scholars, and if you're interested in that, we'll talk about that in a minute. We also have a new program called Translational Research Scholars. So this is designed to support students who are really interested in working more in a clinical and translational research lab, perhaps maybe a med student or somebody that's really, really interested in a clinical problem and working with a researcher who has translational research or clinical research And again, that kind of speaks to the idea that translational clinical research really is going to be the future for NIH. I think they're really, really pushing for that, and I think that we need to really adapt as well and begin to help students at the undergraduate level think about translational research. And then finally, we have a new community-based research scholar. This is an opportunity for students to go out into a community and do community-based research, which may not be quite the same as a sort of a wet bench, basic research laboratory opportunity. And if you're interested in that, please contact us and let us know. So, as we mentioned, over 900 undergraduates have been supported by the K-INBRE since 2000. That's really a remarkable number, and we're very proud of that. And so we feel like we've been very successful. I know that NIH views our success very, very strongly, and they're appreciative of what we've done in terms of supporting undergraduate students. And that's a testament to all the campus coordinators that are out there today, as well as all the students who participated in that. So I would just like to say thanks to all of you for all the hard work that you put in over the last 14 years. Next slide. All right, so one of the things that I have to do is I have to tell NIH how well have we done in terms of graduating students and getting them interested in research. And this is work that's been done by Dr. Chapes at Kansas State University, as well as Sarah. They published a paper last year looking at how our program has done in terms of introducing students to undergraduate research. And so they were able to gather a lot of data about how many students we had and what the composition of that students, and importantly, where have they gone? Have they gone into settings where they've that may have research opportunity? Are they going to postgraduate schools, such as a graduate school, medical school, or professional program? And we have been very successful. So as you can see on the graph on the right, about 69% of our students have gone on to graduate medical or professional programs. And really, this is really an important aspect of our success, because you can, as you may or may not be able to see, we are much higher than many of the other comparative programs that have tried to stimulate undergraduate interest in research. And so you can see that 37% of our students have gone on to graduate programs, 19% to medical schools, 12% to health-related professions, and 1% have gone on and entered MD, PhD programs. So we've been very, very successful in terms of introducing and interesting students into undergraduate research. And I just want to give, again, a little shout out to Keith Chapes, who put this information together and published this, and this was a really key component for us to getting another 5 years of funding. So thanks to Keith and Sarah for doing this. Next slide. We are not alone in the Midwest in terms of our INBRE program. We work very closely with other states who also have INBRE programs. And so we share best practices. We talk about our programs. I was on a teleconference call yesterday with the Dakotas in Nebraska. They have a new grant program that they're interested in, and they want our help with that. So we are, Kansas is part of a Central Region IDEA state. And that includes both South and North Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma. We work very closely with the other directors of their programs, and it's very important for NIH to understand that we're working cooperatively with these other programs. Every 2 years, we have a meeting in one of the states. Last year was the last meeting that we held in 2013 in Kansas. Hosted that meeting in Kansas City. In the next meeting, we'll be in North Dakota in 2015, and if you're interested and active in our program at that point and want to head to North Dakota, I'll be heading up there. We'll be attending that meeting in North Dakota. So it's very important for us to kind of communicate with the other IDEA programs, and we've done so very successfully. The PIs within the Central Region states are very they're great people and easy to work with, and I'm very proud to be part of that Central Region. And hopefully we'll have a lot of folks headed up to North Dakota in 2015. Thank you. Okay, so how are we organized? I think it's important for the students and the faculty to sort of recognize how we're organized. And so what I'm going to show you in the next couple slides is our organizational chart, and kind of show you some of the important people that are part of that. So the first component is the administrative core. We are housed here in Kansas City at KU Medical Center. I'm the PI, and as I'll show you in a minute, Peggy Petroff is the associate director, and then we have two very, what's the word I'm looking for, very skilled administrative people, Hayata and Jan. We also have, as part of that, we have an incentives and award committee. This is an important committee made up of faculty across the state. Many of you in the audience are probably participating in that. That helps make decisions on funding the best science that we have submitted to us. And so that's housed here. That's chaired by Dale Abrahamson, who is the chair of Anatomy and Cell Biology here at the Medical Center. And then underneath the administrative core, we also have the Undergraduate Research Office, which is led by Keith Chapes at K-State University. And as many of you know, Keith has done an excellent job in developing this research office and supports all of the opportunities that the students have to do undergraduate research. Next slide. Okay, so how many of you know that there's a communications core? Just by a shout out, yes or no? Yes. How many people know there's a communications core? No one, right? Yeah, of course you do, right? Communications core is really important, right? They're the folks that help us communicate as a network. We have a huge state that we have to communicate across. We also need to really promote our program, and that's a key component of the communications core. We need to relay our successes to NIH. They need to know how we're being successful, and that's one of the important aspects of the core. And that's led by Ryan Spalding and Sarah Velasquez, and I'll show you those folks in a minute. Next slide. The other important aspect is that we have a bioinformatics presence. So we have a bioinformatics core that is led by Sue Brown, who is the director of that core. She is at K-State. And then we have another site at KU Medical Center that's led by Brooke Fridley, who's in the Department of Biostatistics. And then Stuart McDonald is the director on the KU Lawrence campus. He's in the Department of Molecular Biosciences. Did I get that right, Rob?
Yes, that's right.
Thanks.
Yes.
So we have three sites, right? And it's important for the students to know that we do have a bioinformatics core. And if you're interested in learning about bioinformatics or need help with statistics, these are the folks that you need to contact and use. They support research for the K-INBRE investigators, and they also train students. And this is a key component of what we do. And then finally, we have the Developmental Research Project Core that's led by Gustavo Blanco. This oversees the mentoring programs in the partnership pairs and the postdocs and the early faculty trainees that are developing their research. So those are the main cores, and it's important for the students to know how to interact with the communications core, how to interact with the bioinformatics core in particular. Those are two key cores. And then the Undergraduate Research Office that's led by Keith is also a key component to the undergraduate research opportunities. Next slide. Okay, so these are the people that you actually will interact with. Hannah Chapman is on the left. She's the assistant director. Most of you probably have had some interaction with Hayata in the past, and she's really a key component of the success of the administrative core. Jan Lyon is on the right. She's in the room with us, hiding away from the camera.
Hello.
And she's also a key component to the administrative core. For the students, these are the people that you're really going to interact with on a regular basis. If you're headed to the symposium in January, this is the people that you're going to be working with the most. Peggy Petroff is in the Department of Anatomy and Cell Biology, and she's the associate director, and she's also the campus coordinator for our campus here in the KU Medical Center. Next. All right, here's the communications core. Ryan Spalding on the left, he's the director of telemedicine and telehealth, and he's the director of this core. And then Sarah Velasquez is on the right, and you'll notice I made Sarah's picture bigger than Ryan's. She is the she is the active component of CommunicationsCore. She has a lot of degrees. I couldn't figure out what some of them were. I added a few. She has a degree in Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, and the NFL, so I'm not quite sure what those degrees mean. But she is the key point person for folks in the CommunicationsCore, and she obviously is responsible for this seminar series and all of the work in communications across the state. Next slide. Here's the Bioinformatics Core. Sue Brown is a University Distinguished Professor at K-State, and she's the director of the Core. They're very serious pictures, by the way. I love seeing these very serious poses. Stuart McDonald is on the left from KU Lawrence, and Brooke Fridley is on the right from KU Medical Center. Next slide. All right, now, another key component of the program is that we have really good faculty out at all of the various institutions, and many of you are sitting in the audience. And so I just want to say thanks and recognize the contributions of all the campus coordinators who are kind of mixed in here, the slide. But many of you have been terrific in your loyalty to the K-INBRE program and support of that. And I want to just say thank you very much, and look forward to continuing to work with all of you, the campus coordinators, in the future. All right, so as a student in the program, what do we expect from you? We are as reliant on you in terms of your success as we are with the faculty. We need the students to be successful. So here's how you can help us. As you enter into the program, you should be providing your contact information. That's really important for Dr. Chapes and for us to record all the information about you. So you've probably been provided that information. If you haven't, you need to talk to your campus coordinator in terms of how to provide your contact information. This is really important for us. You need to communicate with your research mentor, right? Now that seems obvious, but research is difficult, and your research project is not going to go perfectly. And you need to constantly communicate with your mentor about how things are going. One of the worst things that can happen is if you're working for a semester and you haven't spoken to your mentor about all the successes and failures, and at the end you really don't have much to show for it. That's your fault, because your responsibility is to communicate with your mentor, and that is a key aspect of being successful in research. Constant feedback from the mentor is really important, so don't underestimate that. My expectation is that you're talking at least every couple days, maybe once a week, with your research mentor about how your project's going. You need to be informed about compliance. Research has a lot of safety issues related to it. It has a lot of compliance issues. If you're doing animal research, have you been properly trained? Have you been properly trained in safety issues? So be informed about that. Ask your mentor, what are the compliance issues that your research should be concerned about, and if there are, then you need to get training, appropriate training, to be successful. You need to share your experiences with other student researchers, right? Talk to the other folks at your institutions. When you're at the symposium in January, talk to the other students. This is a key component. You can learn about successes and failures by communicating with those other researchers. Hopefully, all of you will present your research at the K-INBRE Symposium, which is in January. I'll talk about that in just a minute. That's a great opportunity, but not the only opportunity to present your research. If there are other opportunities within the state or nationally or internationally that you have, take advantage of those opportunities. Presenting your research is a great way to learn about other research and also about how to make your research much stronger. So take every opportunity that you can, including the K-INBRE Symposium. It's important for us to get your feedback, right? How is your research experience going, right? What are things that we can do to make it better? And we can't make changes and we can't improve the program if we don't have feedback. So if there are issues, positive and negative, we'd like to hear about that. And there are a lot of different ways in which you can do that. You can communicate with Sarah through the CommunicationsCore. There are various surveys that we'll have available along the way. So that's very important for us to make improvements in the program. You need to share your successes with us. We need to know great things that are happening in the state. And there's a lot of great things that are happening in the state related to research. And oftentimes we can share those with NIH. NIH wants to know when we're being successful. They will promote it as well. We've done that a number of times in the last couple of years, and NIH has gobbled up that information. They really want to know how we're being successful. And we don't know that unless people share it with us. We can dig and hunt, but it's much easier if you share the successes with us. And I'm speaking to the faculty as well. If you've published a really interesting paper, if you've got a great finding, if you're getting press somewhere, let us know and we can help promote that. That's the job of the CommunicationsCore, is to promote that information and also to send that on to NIH. I can't emphasize that enough. That's a really important aspect. We need you to stay in touch because part of what we need to learn is how successful you are in the future and where did you go. As I mentioned, we've been able to track information about the success of the students, but we can't do that unless students stay in touch. So as you're exiting the program, we want to make sure that we have opportunities to contact you in the future. If you become this big successful researcher that started your own company, we need to know that. If you go on to graduate school, if you go on to medical school, we need to know that. So please stay in touch with us as you leave the program. And then finally, have fun. Science is hard, right? Science is mostly failure. But if you're not having fun in science, you need to figure out why you're not having fun. Now, I don't have fun every day, that's for sure. But we try and provide opportunities in which students can have fun. So my laboratory is on the lower right. This is from a couple years ago. I very much promote an environment where it should be fun to come into the lab every day. You're not going to be successful and things are going to fail. But that's part of the fun, and if you're in an environment that is really fun to work with, you'll work longer, you'll have more fun, you'll develop strong friendships, and that's really an important part of it. So I encourage you to have fun in your research. That's a key aspect of really having a great interest, a lifelong interest in science. So, next slide. As I mentioned, we have an annual symposium in which it is one of the largest research symposia in the state. In the last couple of years, we've had about 120 scientific abstracts that come from students, postdocs, graduate students, and even faculty. And we've had now about 300 attendees over the last 4 or 5 years. So this is a really big research conference. And as the faculty mentors and the campus coordinators can tell you, there's really a strong focus on the students. We recognize that this is perhaps maybe or very likely the first time that many of the students have had an opportunity to go to a research meeting. So we put a lot of energy into focusing on the students, and you get a lot of opportunities to talk to faculty, to talk to other students, to present your research, to have opportunities to give oral presentations. It's a great environment in which to start your research career. As you proceed through your research career, you're going to go to a lot of different meetings, and you may not get the kind of attention as a student that you will with the K-INBRE symposium every January. This is a great opportunity to really start your research career and get a good feel for what a research meeting is like. We also get participation from biotech companies, the biosciences in Kansas, so this is a great way to make connections in biomedical research industry. Our next meeting is in January. It's January 16th through 18th, and we'll be in Topeka. The meeting travels around across the state. This is the first time we've been in Topeka ever. Is that correct? Yeah, so we'll be in Topeka. Block it off on your calendars, January 16th through the 18th. The 19th is Martin Luther King holiday, so it gives you an opportunity to go to a meeting and then have a day off before you have to get back to work or before school starts. So hopefully everybody will have a chance to attend that upcoming in January. Next slide. All right. One of the important things you need to know is our grant number, which is listed there, P20GM 103418. And that's important because all of the work that you generate and hopefully publish, we would like you to acknowledge the source of money that helps support that. So if the K-INBRE grant helps support your research, your mentor's research, or your research, and you publish that, please cite our grant because this is one way that NIH looks at how successful our program is. They look at how many papers are published with our grant number support on that. And that's one of the last things you think about when you're publishing a paper, but for our standpoint, it's very, very, very important. We need to have you cite the source of money that helps support your research. And you can generally, in an acknowledgement section of your research paper, you can make a statement like it's listed in the bottom. This research was supported in part by NIGMS grant P20 GM 103-418. It's really, really important for us to have you do that, and we'll constantly remind you. And it's, as I mentioned, it's the last thing I think about when I'm publishing a paper, but it really is a key aspect of helping document where the research support is coming from NIH's viewpoint. Next slide. All right. As a student, as a faculty member, how do I interact with the KINBRE? Well, Sarah is one of the key components of that, as well as Keith. And we have a lot of opportunities for you to be involved in the K-INBRE. We have a website that's listed there, and I encourage you to go to the web and look at all the information that's available to you. There's a lot of new information, particularly around the time of the symposium, where you'll find information related to the symposium, how to register, how to upload your abstract, all the key aspects of going to the meeting. We have a Facebook page that highlights a lot of information and a lot of successes of the Kansas researchers. I would encourage you to go. I went on it this morning. There are right now 340 likes. After this seminar, I fully expect to see more likes. Hope the students are pulling out their iPhones at this point, logging on to Facebook and liking our page. That'll help you kind of stay in touch with news events, new important things that come out, opportunities that come out, and also to highlight the information, the successes that are happening in the Kansas INBRE program. There's a Flickr page that we post a lot of photos, particularly related to the symposium, that you can see lots of pictures that are taken at the symposium. Sarah's developed an Instagram account that you can go. If you're an Instagrammer, you can see pictures that are posted related to Kansas INBRE students and faculty. She's also developed a LinkedIn group on LinkedIn. If you're part of LinkedIn, you can go to that and be a part of the KINBRE LinkedIn group. And then finally, there are videos on YouTube that you can go and watch. In this particular case, I've included a link to a video from K-State in which they highlighted research by a previous KINBRE scholar, and you can kind of go and view that. And if you're interested in participating in something like that, please contact Sarah. We're really interested in highlighting some of the research across the state. If you're a student or a faculty member that you feel like would be really worthwhile to highlight something related to your research or your institution, let us know, because we're going to be continuing to develop these videos. These are really powerful to help us demonstrate successes in a very short fashion, and we're very, very interested in developing these. So if you do have interest, please let us know and contact Sarah, and we can help think about how to develop those particular videos. Next slide. Okay, that's all I have. I would be happy to take any questions or listen to any comments that anyone has. If there's something that I didn't cover or that you have questions about, please let me know or ask away. So I fully expect all the campus coordinators to ask a question at this point. And go.
Hi, this is Virginia. You know I can never resist asking a question.
I was going to actually just say, Virginia, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much for a really excellent presentation. I feel motivated myself. I'm sure that motivation has extended throughout the group that's sitting here. And I wonder if you might just like to comment to the students what you think is important for them as they start the semester in terms of how to work in a laboratory to be successful. And it'll be, of course, different, but what are some things that you think are really important for students to be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So there are a lot of ways to have the successful experience in research. I can tell you a lot of ways that will not make you successful. If you go into the laboratory and you don't talk to anybody and you don't interact with the other people in the laboratory and you keep to yourself and you don't talk to your mentor, it's going to be a long experience, right? In contrast, what you should be doing, and what I do with new students in my laboratory, is one, I immediately take them out and make them feel part of our community, right? Maybe it's lunch, maybe it's happy hour if they're of age, maybe it's just going outside and having a picnic. You need to feel part of that lab. You need to work with the other students in the laboratory, right? Ask questions. What are they doing? Can I help you? Be a part of that. There's not a single student in my laboratory that has their own project, right? Many of them, they're helping each other, they're working together, they're talking to their mentor, they're talking about successes and failures, and that's a big part of it. So much of the work that happens in my laboratory I don't find out about later because the students are really working together as a group to talk about, wow, I don't know why this Western blot failed. How can I improve that? So a lot of those are really key in terms of communication and making your research experience a positive experience. I hate to see students just come and sit in a corner and are isolated. Be a part of that research community because it'll help you be successful, help you develop friendships, help you in terms of your writing. My students, when they write, they share all of their drafts with each other before they get to me. That's an important part about developing your, how to polish off your research, learning how to write. So all of those are kind of key features, and I'm sure the campus coordinators probably would agree to a lot of that and also have some additional input to that. So if you have suggestions on how to be successful in that, please pipe up.
Well, since nobody else is piping up, I think one of the things you need to bring with you is just a strong work ethic and a genuine interest. I think if you're genuinely interested in the project, it's not that hard to work. And I think most students, at least in my experience, tend to underestimate their own abilities. And the term research kind of makes their skin crawl. You've got to get them started. And the sooner you get them started, I think the better. We've had a lot of students that are even at the high school starting some research projects, and they've done extremely well. So if you're a student and you're worried that you're not far enough along in your program, my advice would be to get started as soon as you can, because the sooner you get started, the further you'll get on your goals.
Good point, Mike. Anybody else want to weigh in? Are there other questions that anybody has? Crickets. I have to lecture to the medical students next week, and I'll get the same response. Crickets.
Yep.
It's a big group. Everybody's a little shy. You did a great job with the presentation, and we've got to go on this end, so thank you.
All right, everybody take care. If you do have questions, email me or Sarah or Janet Hayata, and look forward to seeing everybody at the symposium in January. Good luck in your research this